Okay, so today we're going to start talking about linear functions being in their slope-intercept form, okay? Linear equations in slope-intercept form. So on the notes, I actually circled it right here, y equals mx plus b, okay? That's called slope-intercept form for a linear function, a linear equation. The m in it, I bet you guys can tell me what m is representing. Danny? The multiplier, and what else do we call that multiplier in a linear equation, Dan? The slope. So m is going to be the slope. The multiplier on the x, we call that slope, and in math they call that the m value, okay? And then the b, does anybody know what the b is representing? Or in other words, if there's something being added to the x's, if there's a rule that says not only multiply the input by something, but also add something. Anybody know what that one's called? Ever heard it before? Okay, that is called the y-intercept. So y-intercept. We'll talk about what that means here after you fill that in. So the b value, the number being added to the x's, being added in the input rule, that's called our y-intercept. The y-intercept is where it should, the line should cross the y-axis at. What's the number, the value, where the line crosses the y-axis, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to make a graph, and then we'll see how we can tell that this function right here has what its slope and what its y-intercept should be based on the graph. So right now, based on this, what's the m value? What's the slope based on the equation? The what? Isn't it that 2 right there in front of the x? Okay. The b, what would that be? What's being added to the x's? 2. So the b is also 2. So in reality, when we're done filling in our table and graphing this and drawing our line should rise at a rate of 2 and run at a rate of 1. 2 over 1, isn't that 2? 2 up, 1 over, that'd be a slope of 2. And where should it cross the y-axis at? The y-intercept is 2, so where should it cross the y-axis at? At 2, yeah. So let's see if that happens. We're going to fill in our table. It says right here, use x values. Will you underline those? Use x values of -1, 0, 1, and 2. So they picked the input values for us. And we're going to show work getting them. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the top 2 on this side, and we're going to do the bottom 2 over on that side. Okay? So when we put the input value into 2 times x, we're going to say 2 times 1, and then plus 2. -1, sorry. I forgot the negative sign, didn't I? It's a -1 that we're doing right now. So this gets done first, doesn't it? What's 2 times -1? -2, okay. What's -2 plus 2? 0. So where x is equal to -1, y is equal to 0. Now we're going to do when x is 0. So we're going to do the top 2 on, we use the space on this side. So 2 times 0 plus 2. And what is 2 times 0, class? 0. And what is 0 plus 2? 2. So when x is 0, that's what we subbed in this time. When x is 0, we got y equals 2. Okay, that took care of the first 2 in the table. Now let's do the last 2. So we're going to do y equals 2 times a positive 1 this time. And then we're going to add 2 to that. So every time the multiplier is a 2, and every time we're adding 2 to the x's. So what's 2 times 1, class? 2. And what's 2 plus 2? 4. So when x is 1, we add a 4 for y. Well, it looks like the y's are doing what? As the x's are going up by 1s, aren't the x's going up by 1s? -1 to 0, 0 to 1, 1 to 2. As the x's are going up by 1s, what's happening to the y's? They're going up by 2's, aren't they? Oh, that sounds like y's arise as it is rising, as the y's are changing by 2, the x's are changing by 1. The run is 1. That seems to make sense. Well, let's put our 2 in there and make sure it does end up with a y value that goes up 2. So what's 2 times 2, class? 4. And what's 4 plus 2? 6. So when x is 2, sure enough, y is 2 more, it's 6. I bet you could tell me that you could predict for me when x is 3, what would y be? Without doing it. When x is 3, what would y be? It'd be 8. Oh, let me do a really tricky one. When x is -2, what would it be? Not -8. -2. It would also be -2. In other words, when we go backwards in the table, when we take 1 away from x, we also take 2 away from y. Okay, let's go graph these points now. -1, 0. That would be right here, wouldn't it? -1, 0. 0, 2. That would be right here. 1, 4. That would be right here. And 2, 6. Over 2 up to 6. Take your ruler and draw a nice line going all the way through the graph. Okay, well that's going to have to be good enough for mine because it's harder to do with. Okay, you go through all 4 points and extend all the way through the graph and have arrows at the end because this line really actually has lots of points on it. There are lots of inputs we could put in and get outputs for it. Okay, now what I want you to do is I want you to figure out the rise over the run. So let's figure out the rise over the run from our graph. So let's just do it right on the graph. Rise over run, because rise over run gives us what again? What is rise over run? Slope. Okay, so let's pick 2 points and find the rise and the run between them. You know how to do this. We were doing this yesterday. Count how much do you have to go up or down to get across from the other point, and then how much do you have to go over, whether it's left or right, and make sure you use appropriate signs. So you do yours, I'll do mine. I'm going to do this one. I'm going down, and I'm going left. So I'm going to get this. That's 2. What'd you get for a slope? Oh, you're going to copy me and not do your own? What? There's 4 points on there. You can do your own. Figure out the rise over the run between any 2 points. You get to pick. So, somebody tell me what your rise and what your run is. Harley, what's yours? 2 over 2. Well, what 2 points did you use to get 2 over 2? 1, 4, and 2, 6. So that would be this one, these 2 right here. So this one and this one, right? Those are the ones you used? Huh. So you have to go up to, she says. She had to go up to, I'm going to use a different color. She had to go up to, okay. But I only have to go over 1. Check your graph again. Only 2 over 1 in there. Your run should only be 1. And then it would be 2 over 1. And 2 over 1 would be 2, just like I got. Okay? Katie, what was your rise over run? 2 over 2. Why are we getting 2 over 2? Can you guys show me? No, you need to count between the points. So you go up 2, and then you just only have to go over 1 grid line. That's 2 over 1. So don't count from the what we do when we're plotting points. So you got to go up 1, 2, and you stop there and you don't move, and now you go 1 over. So you should be showing 2 over 1, yes. Okay. Anybody else? Anybody have, how about 6 over 2, or over 3? Anybody have that one, 6 over 3? Yeah, and that's 2, isn't it? 6 over 3. Okay, here's some other rise over runs. Anybody have something different yet? So when we're counting rise over run, we go from which point we're picking to the other point we're picking. We go, how much do we have to go up or go down to be straight across from it? And then from that point, we move how much do we have to go over, whether it's left or it's right, to get on it. Okay? So now, what is the slope? Well, we said we found it to be 2, didn't we? Well, then the question is, what is the y-intercept? So in other words, we're using our graph right now to say, oh yeah, we got a slope of 2, and the y-intercept, remember, is where is it crossing the y-axis at? What's the y value where it's crossing the y-axis? So what's our y-intercept? Where's it crossing the y-axis, class? Class? Where's it crossing the y-axis? Right there. What's that y value? 2. This is the y-axis. It's crossing the y-axis. Here's the y-axis. It's crossing the y-axis right here at positive 2. So we are going to say the y-intercept is 2. And look at what I wrote over here, m and b, and look at what we wrote in the beginning. Isn't that what we wrote up here? The slope is 2, the y-intercept is 2. So we can tell it from the graph. We can tell it from the equation. And this is going to be important when we have to start doing our other learning goal, which says you have to be able to match graphs to their equations. So questions? Okay, let's try this next one then. I changed it. I crossed out and put a different one there. I put y equals 0x minus 4. So let's change that to add the opposite, because that's what we always do with subtraction. So change that to add the opposite first of all. And now, let's decide, let's go over here above the table and let's say, what do we think the m and the b are? Let's see, what do we think is going to happen after we graph it? What do you think the m is, the slope is? What's the multiplier on x? Harley? 0. What's the y-intercept? Negative 4. The number being added to the x's is the y-intercept. So we think our line should turn out, once we're done graphing it, we better be able to count rise over run and get a 0 for slope, and we better be able to see that our line is crossing the y-axis at negative 4. So first of all, what we got to do is we got to plug those values that they told us to use, negative 1, 0, 1, and 2. We're going to put those are our input values. Let's do the same thing as we did last time. Let's do the bottom 2 on that side and the top 2 on this side. So we're going to do y equals 0 times negative 1, and then add a negative 4 to that. What's 0 times negative 1? 0. 0 times anything is 0, isn't it? What's 0 plus negative 4? Negative 4. Okay, so we get a y value of negative 4. Okay, now we'll use that when x is equal to 1. 0 times 1 plus that negative 4. 0 times 1 is? Is Harley? Oh, I need to do a 0. You're right. Yeah, you're right. This should be a 0 here. 0 times 0. We're doing the top two right now. 0 times 0 plus negative 4. So I just changed this up. I made this a 0 here instead of a 1. Okay, let me do a better job of that. Okay. What's 0 times 0? 0. Yeah. What's 0 plus negative 4? Negative 4. Seems to be a pattern happening here. Well, now we'll try 1. Okay, we'll do y equals 0 times 1, and we'll add negative 4 to that. 0 times negative 1, or positive 1. It's still 0. Yeah, that's right. When you multiply by 0, you get 0, don't you? And what's 0 plus negative 4 again? Negative 4. Oh. I am going to guess you guys could predict what it's going to be when x is 2. Y is going to be negative 4, because same thing keeps happening. When we take the input times 0, what do we get every time? 0. And when we add that 0 to the negative 4, what do we get every time? Negative 4. Well, that's interesting. Okay. Well, what kind of crazy line is this going to be, I wonder? Okay, let's go plot all those points. Negative 1, negative 4. 0, negative 4. 1, negative 4. 2, negative 4. We're just lined up in a row there, aren't they? Take your ruler and draw a nice line going all the way through the graph, through those points. Extend it beyond the graph so you can tell that, this is not the x-axis. This is another line like the x-axis. What kind of a line is this called? When it goes from left to right. What is that called? Starts with an H. Horizontal. This is a horizontal line. Okay, well now let's do rise over run. You get to pick whichever 2 points you want to do. I don't care what you do your own though. Don't copy me. I'm going to go from this one. I'm going to go from this one all the way to the end. That's going to be a plus 4. And it's going to, I can't do that because that'll confuse you. Okay, that's going to be a plus 4. Oh, but that's on the bottom. That's the run. Oh. And I don't go up at all, so my rise is 0. To go from one point to the other, do you have to go up or down at all? No, we better all have the rise of 0, right? And now the run's going to be depending on which points you use. How far did you have to come over in which direction? So 1, 2, 3, 4, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4. It doesn't really matter because 0 divided by anything except itself. It can't be divided by itself. 0 divided by anything is what? 0. 0 divided by anything except itself, because we can't divide by 0, is 0. So our slope, we discovered, is 0. Where is this crossing the y-axis? Right there. At what? At negative 4. It's crossing the y-axis. This is the y-axis. It's crossing it right there at negative 4. Right here, it's crossing at negative 4. So that means our slope is 0, our y-intercept is negative 4, and looky, look at what we said in the beginning. We said the slope is 0, and the y-intercept is negative 4, didn't we? Okay. So being able to make the connection between the equation and its graph, determining slope and y-intercept, now we should be able to move on to matching a graph with its appropriate equation, function name. But anybody have questions on any of this? Okay. Well then, let's go to that next page. And it says, we've learned about three kinds of slope: positive, negative, and zero. Oh, what kind of line has a zero slope? What kind of a line has a zero slope? We just had one. A what? A horizontal line. Let's draw that picture. Right here beside it, let's show a zero slope would be a horizontal line. So if the slope is zero, you better end up with a horizontal line. Or if the line is horizontal, you better end up with a zero slope. How about a positive slope? What did we say about that? What does the line do? From left to right. As you're moving across the graph, reading across the graph from left to right, what happens when you have a positive slope? Harley, look it up for us. It rises from left to right. So let's show a picture of that. It rises from left to right. How about a negative slope? What does it do? It falls from left to right. So that goes like this when we have a negative slope. So those are the three kinds of slope that we can identify with. But now we also know about y-intercepts, don't we? So y-intercepts, again, remember, are where it crosses the y-axis. So first of all, we're going to just put a box around these guys, okay? Like that. Make it big enough so that we're going to be able to put a number above them. So we say, we're going to match these guys with this particular graph, okay? There's our 5 functions. We have to find the graph that matches each of those. So we'll just start with the graphs, and then we'll see which of the equations gets to be pulled to that graph. So it says, which function goes with this graph? Well, before we decide which function goes with this graph, we're going to do a couple of things here. We're going to say, what kind of slope does it have? So, in other words, it's a horizontal line. So what kind of a slope does it have? Zero slope. So it has a zero slope because it's a horizontal line. So that means our m has to equal 0. Okay, the other thing that would be helpful is if we knew the y-intercept. Where does it cross the y-axis? Harley? You what? Okay, but before you give that away, would you please tell me where it crosses the y-axis? At 3. So we're going to say that right here. So what's our b value then? B equals 3. Oh, okay. Well then, we might have enough information now to pick the equation. Everybody pick which of those 5 you think it is, and then Harley gets to tell us which one she thinks it is, and you can see if you agree with her, or if you're going to challenge her. So which one do you think it is? So Harley, which one do you think it is? Which one? The third one. Read it for me. What does it say? Okay, y equals 0x plus 3. She says that one matches our graph number 1. Do you guys agree with her? Okay, let's explain why then. Why is it 0x? So we think it's this one, so let's write it on the line. Y equals 0x plus 3. And why do we think that? Why did you pick that one? So in y equals 0x plus 3, what's the m value? What's m equal out of that? 0. Is that what we set up on our graph? Yeah. Out of the equation, what's the b equal? Out of the equation, what's the b equal? 3. Is that what we set up on our graph? Yep. Okay. So it appears that because m equals 0 and b equals 3, this would be why that equation would match it. And so the other thing we're going to do, though, is I want to teach you how to clean these up. In other words, sometimes they won't write it like this. Anybody think they know what could get cleaned up and what might not be there? What if they do this to you? What if they clean it up? And you're like, oh, I don't know what this intercept are. Okay, let me show you what it would look like. Let's write this. Cleaned up. What's 0 times x? What's 0 times x? What's 0 times anything? 0. Okay, so we have a 0 plus that 3. What's 0 plus 3? 3. So it's kind of like the x term can be gone. Here's what they're saying. If you made a table for this, all the y's would equal what? What would all the y's equal? 3. In fact, remember back here when we did the graphing one over here? Look at this one. All the y values were -4. And look at what kind of an equation we had. We had y equals 0x minus 4. I wonder how that one could be cleaned up. Anybody think they know how we might write this one cleaned up? Well, 0 times x is what? 0. And what's 0 take away 4? Or what's 0 plus a -4? -4. So this one could, we might see the equation written like this. In other words, every y value equals -4. Every output is -4. Just like for this one, every output would be a +3. Every y value would be a +3. Okay, let's try another one. Oh, this is our line right here. It's below the x-axis. It's the one right here, below the x-axis. It's what kind of a line? It's not a 0 line, it's a 0 slope because it's what kind of a line? Horizontal line, which then makes it a 0 slope. So we say 0 slope, which means then that m equals 0. Where is it crossing the y-axis? That's the next question. It's crossing at -1 right there. So b equals -1. Well, that should be enough information now to figure out which equation it would be. So maybe the thing to do is do this. Maybe this time we should do it like this. M equals 0, b equals -1, so y equals, let's just write the equation ourselves and then go see if it matches one of them. So y equals what? Well, we got to take the m times the x, and then we have to add to that the b value. So is that one of the equations up there? Does it match one of them? Oh, but wait a minute, I don't see a 0x plus a -1. Oh, we have to clean it up, in other words. What would this clean up to? We could get one of the, they only cleaned it up a little bit. They took the plus a -1 and took it back to subtracting, didn't they? And when we change it back to subtraction, now we subtract the opposite. So what's the opposite of -1? +1. So this is it cleaned up. But then it can be cleaned up even more. Anybody think they know what the other cleaned up answer would be? Katie? No? Y equals -1. Yeah, it'd be -1. Okay, but let's go up here and let's say, okay, well, we match this with graph number 2. And we're going to put it on our line right here, 0x minus 1. Well, we got 3 to go, it looks like. So we're going to have to kind of flip back and forth and check out the equations after we do all the work we need to do. Then we'll go see if it matches anything, okay? So, first of all, this line is not a horizontal line, is it? Is it rising from left to right, or is it falling from left to right? Falling from left to right. So it better have a negative slope then, right? Okay, so this one has a negative slope. In fact, we have to be even more specific than that. We have to say, well then, what is that negative slope? Let's do a rise over a run.
let's use this point right here on the y-axis where it's crossing at 3. And let's use this point right here, 1, 1. So 0, 3, and 1, 1 we're going to use because those are crossing at nice integer values for x and y. Okay, so what do we have to rise and how much do we have to run? You want to start at the top point or the bottom point? Okay, I'll decide for you. We'll start at the top. We're going to have to go down 1, 2, so minus 2. And we're going to have to go right just 1 unit, so plus 1. So our rise is negative 2 and our run is positive 1. What's negative 2 divided by negative, or by positive 1? Negative 2. So we just figured out that the rise over run is negative 2, making our slope negative 2. Oh, that's good because we said it should have a negative slope, right? Okay, then what's its b value? What does b equal? What's its y-intercept? Right here, 3. So let's go down here now. And let's say, oh, okay, we got m equals negative 2, and we got b equals 3. Don't even look back on that other sheet yet. We're going to write our own equation first. So we got y equals what? What are we going to put in front of our x? What's the slope? Negative 2. And what are we going to add to the x's? 3. Now we can go back to the other page and see if that's one of our equations. Is it over there? Y equals negative 2x plus 3. Well, look at there. It's the very first one. So that goes with graph number 3. Negative 2x plus 3 goes with graph number 3. So up here above our graph, we're going to say, oops, wrong one. Up here above our graph, we're going to put the equation that we matched it with. And part of our explaining is really getting done right on the graph, okay? So, okay, number 4, what kind of slope should it have? Negative slope again, because it's falling from left to right. Well, let's plot this time, this point, 0, 1, and, oh, I don't know, I think I like this one up here, negative 1, 6. Maybe my, let's look at this better. No, I'm not looking at my graph very well. It doesn't cross at negative 1, 6. It crosses at negative 1, 5. Change that up. It crosses at negative 1, 5. Plot a point there instead. I was not seeing my graph very well. Negative 1, 5 is an intersection of grid lines, and 0, 1 has an intersection of grid lines. We always have to make sure it's an intersection of grid lines. Okay, now let's do our rise over run. Start at the top point and go down. How much do we have to go down? 4. Down 4. And what do we have to do to go over? How much? 1 in the positive direction, so plus 1. So our rise over run equals negative 4 over positive 1. And what does that equal? Negative 4. So we just figured out that m is negative 4. Okay. What's our b value? Positive 1. Yeah, it's right here, isn't it? B is 1. Well, then let's go down here to our explaining line, and let's put that m equals -4, b equals 1. So when we substitute into our mx plus b, what are we going to write? Y equals -4x, what? Plus 1. Okay? Go to that other page and see if that's one of the equations. Is it over there? Okay, what number are you going to put above that one? A what? Aren't we doing number 4? Number 4 is what we're doing right now, so we should put this one, 4 above the 4th one. Okay. Well, there's only one left, so hopefully we're going to get y equals 4x minus 1, right? Let's go find out if we do. Okay, so let's plot this time ordered pair 0, -1, and 1, 3. Our line is climbing, rising from left to right. What kind of slope should it have? It should have a positive slope. We always want to make that connection. What kind of slope should it have? What type? And then we'll do our rise over run. So, how about we go from the bottom point up this time? How much do we have to go up? Count for me. How much? 4, yep, plus 4. We go up 4 and over how much? Plus 1. So our rise is 4 over, and a run of 1. 4 over 1 is 4. So m equals 4. Okay? And now we need a b value. What's our b value? No. -1. It's right here. It's not above the x-axis. It's crossing below. That makes a negative y value. So that means let's go over here to our explaining line. We have an m of 4. We have a b of -1. When we put those into the equation, y equals mx plus b, we get y equals 4 is the multiplier on x, plus -1. Quit worrying about stopping. What do we clean this up to be? How does this clean up? 4x what? Subtract 1. And now, does it match with that final equation we have? Okay, so let's put it up here then. Y equals 4x minus 1. I wonder if I forgot to put it on my last one. How about, like I should have. Yep, I forgot to finish that one. Y equals -4x plus 1. Okay, and over here, I'm just going to check you guys out. I'm not sure. Oh, you're right. It's there. Okay, so we matched them all up properly. I'll go back to the very last one in case you weren't quite caught up with that one. So now we can write our own equations. We can match them to graphs. We can use the equation to help us determine slope and y-intercept. We have a variety of things we can do with y equals mx plus b. Anybody have questions? Okay. When is this homework due that I'm passing out right now? It's due on Thursday, but what's going to also happen tomorrow?